Okay, so yesterday we began to explore the connection between the redemption of the Mittler Rebbe and the Torah portion of Parshas Vayetze. The Shalah writes that every holiday has a connection to the Torah portion in which it's read, and since we often read Parshas Vayetze, the time of the redemption of the Mittler Rebbe, so that means there must be some relationship between his redemption and the parsha that we're in. So on the surface is a very obvious connection. The theme of the Torah portion is about exile and redemption. The Torah tells us how Yaakov had to leave his father's house, the best place in the world, and go to the worst place in the world, the place of Haran, the place that angered Hashem. And in this place itself, he had to be in the worst home in the world, the house of Lavan. And in Lavan's house, he wasn't just there, he was there as a servant. And then the Torah continues and tells us how God freed him from his father's house, and he came home. He came back to Eretz Yisrael. He freed him from Lavan's house. He comes back to Eretz Yisrael. So we have the theme of exile and redemption. And Yaakov specifically asked before coming home, when he first set out on his journey to his future father-in-law's house, to Lavan's house, he asked Hashem, let me come back home in peace. And that's also what the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, recited when Hashem redeemed them from prison. God redeemed my soul in peace. The verse from chapter 55 in Tehillim. God redeemed my soul in peace. So that's the simple connection between them. And we explained what's behind that is that when a person learns the inner dimension of Torah, the teachings of Chassidus, so that has a different kind of effect on you than studying the revealed elements of Torah. Because when you're studying Chassidus, you're entering a subject of God, not just that it's godly wisdom, the whole Torah is godly wisdom, but it's openly talking about the truth of Hashem. Unlike the revealed parts of Torah, like the Babylonian Talmud especially, where there's a constant back and forth and questions and answers and contradictions, the inner dimension of Torah is a pure revelation of Hashem's light. And it's not like you're dealing with an opposition, dealing with a back and forth, dealing with darkness, dealing even with things in this world. You're dealing with it, you're talking about the truth of Hashem. You're talking about Hashem himself and the creation of Hashem and what his soul is and what a yontiv is. It's all about the truth of Hashem. That's why it causes in ourselves a redemption from the animal soul, redemption from our inner struggles in a peaceful manner. We're not talking about being freed with a struggle, talking about just by studying these inner teachings of Torah, we're entering a realm of holiness and truth that lifts us above the here and now and puts us in a ocean of Hashem's truth. It just lifts us out of where we were. But now we're going to go a little deeper into this subject, and we're going to discover a distinction between the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe, and the redemption of the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe, and why only about the Mittler Rebbe do we find that his redemption is something that has a special relevance to everyone, and everyone recites this verse, God redeem my soul in peace, on the 10th day of Kislev. So let's go right to it. The Sikha continues on page 186 in Isay. Let's explain this a little deeper. The reason we find more overtly a connection to the verse, God redeem my soul in peace, with the Mittler Rebbe, is because there's a higher kind of peace that was achieved through the Mittler Rebbe and through his redemption. The distinction between the Alter Rebbe's redemption, the Mittler's redemption, and how it relates to us is not only in whether or not there was a a revelation of Torah teachings in a way that's understandable, or revelation of Torah teachings in a way that they're still somewhat abstract, as we learned yesterday, at the Alter Rebbe, he revealed Chassidus in a way of Chachma. He revealed the truth of Chassidus in a very, if you will, concentrated way. And the Mittler Rebbe took those same teachings and extrapolated in great detail what the Alter Rebbe taught him. And that's why we learned yesterday why the Mittler Rebbe achieves a greater level of peace, because the Mittler Rebbe caused Chassidus to be something that's more relatable. So it sounds like, from our explanation until this point, that what the Mittler Rebbe accomplished was that the same thing that the Alter Rebbe had in a concentrated way, he expounded on it. So it was more peaceful because it gave us something to latch on to in a way that's more meaningful, in a way that's more relatable. That's what it sounds like. So instead of just having things in a more general revelation, it's now in detailed. It's not something you could sink your teeth into. That's what the Mittler Rebbe brought. That's what it seems. But as we're going to discover, the distinction between the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe isn't just like the distinction between the Mishnah and the Gemara, where in the Mishnah, everything's in a very concentrated form. And in the Gemara, it's expounded on. As we learned yesterday, that the Rambam says that it's impossible for a human being to be able to write a Mishnah. A Mishnah is clearly a godly idea because only Hashem himself could put so much information into a small Mishnah. So in a similar way, the Alter Rebbe's teachings were very concentrated. Mittler Rebbe expounded on them. And therefore, the piece is broader, you would think. The difference is in sort of like in quantity. The Alter Rebbe gave us one kind of revelation of Chassidus in a more concentrated way. And Mittler Rebbe gave it to us in a way that would spread out and it's expounded. We could swim in it, we could sink our teeth into it, we could relate to it. But as we're going to discover, the difference between these two redemptions is also in the quality of the redemption, not just in the quantity. Let's see. Next page, this distinction is also alluded to in the verse that we quoted earlier. Yaakov's request, may I return in peace to my father's house. Not only do we see the concept of being redeemed in peace in the words of Yaakov Avinu, we also see in Yaakov's words a distinction between the Alter Rebbe's redemption and the Mittler Rebbe's redemption. How so? The Alter Rebbe explains, when Yaakov said, I should return to my father's house in peace, the word in peace could also be read as two kinds of peace. There is a peace that comes from above to below, and there's a peace that comes from below to above. Yaakov requested that his peace that he wants, what should happen? He's asking not only should there be peace coming from above to below, but there should also be peace from below to above. What does that mean? So let's first look at it at a very down-to-earth perspective, how it was with Yaakov himself and Yaakov's battles with his father-in-law. Lavan was chasing after Yaakov to kill him. That's the simple story. Actually, the Mizitcha Maggid says that Yaakov was there for 20 years. He refined all the sparks of godliness in his father-in-law's house. That's why he had to be there for such a long time. But now, when he left his father's house, there were some sparks of holiness he hadn't yet refined. And in order to refine those sparks, there had to be more of the story. And in order for there to be more of the story, God caused Lavan to have this evil idea of chasing after Yaakov and to kill him, so that there will be more Torah, more pages of the Torah, more words of the Torah. And by there being more words of the Torah, all of the sparks that were left in Lavan's house are being elevated. I think if someone has seen a cartoon, it would really vivify what's really going on. He's chasing after Yaakov to give him the sparks as he's creating the story. It's really an incredible thing. But anyways, why does Lavan make peace with Yaakov? Two things happen. Number one, God himself appears to Lavan at night and says to him, don't start up with that guy. Don't you dare talk to him. Don't say anything good to him. Don't say anything bad to him. you watch out because I got Yaakov's back. So the peace between Lavan and Yaakov is happening from above to below. It's something that God is creating. But subsequently to God's appearance to Lavan and warning him not to start up with Yaakov, Lavan himself wanted to make peace. And he went over to Yaakov and he said to Yaakov the next day, let's make a covenant between each other. So here is not only God causing there to be a peace, here is Lavan himself requesting from himself. He could have turned around, okay, I won't start up with him. God made the peace, there'll be peace. But Lavan wanted himself to create a bond between Yaakov, a covenant with Yaakov. So it wasn't just from above to below, it wasn't just from God causing there to be peace. It was also from below to above. It was also caused by Lavan himself. In a similar way, we'll see there is a additional kind of peace that was accomplished by the revelations and teachings of the Mittler Rebbe, different kind of peace that he gave every Jew through his teachings. This is the distinction and the novelty of the redemption of the Mittler Rebbe, who revealed Chassidus in a way of understanding that surpasses what was revealed by his father. In the Mittler Rebbe's redemption, not only do you have a peace that is coming from above to below, you also have a peace that's coming from below to above. What does that mean? What does peace really mean? What's peace mean? Peace means that there's discord, and out of the discord, there's a convergence of the two parties. There is a relationship between those two forces that were at first opposed. If there is no argument in the first place, there is no concept of peace. There's no separation in the first place. And that's why this pasuk, which talks about peace, emphasizes plurality. It says in the Torah, God redeemed my soul in peace, for the many were with me. The Torah emphasizes there's a situation where there is many, there's plurality, there is a difference between one and another. And in this place of division, God brings peace. As actually, practically, on the ground, what happened in the story of King David. There were people that were running after King David to kill him. The people of Avshalom, the people of the camp of the King David's son who rebelled against him and tried to kill his father. And then the people of Avshalom themselves, they made peace with King David and they prayed for King David's victory. So that's true peace. There is an opposition, and those in the state of opposition, they're asking for peace. So that's what this means on a practical level. What does this mean on a soul level in our service of Hashem? Let's go to the next page, on page 188. This will help us understand why this pasuk is related specifically to the teachings of Chassidus Chabad. There was Chassidus before the Alter Rebbe. Before the Alter Rebbe, there was a teachings of Baal Shem Tov, Zitcher Magid. How come we don't find an emphasis on peace by those tzaddikim, and only the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe talk about peace? The reason is because what the Alter and Mittler Rebbe are trying to accomplish is Chabad. Chabad is an acronym for the three soul energies, the ability to create ideas, understand ideas, and to connect with them. Not just that we should believe, but we should be able to have a complete thought process and connect with the truth of Hashem on a very personal, down-to-earth level. But Teres says in the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, which is called Chassidus HaKlalos, the general Chassidus, there's an emphasis on faith. When you're talking about faith, there's no room for peace, because in the realm of emunah, aren't two opinions. In the realm of faith, there's only one truth. From the perspective of faith, all there is the truth. There's no concealment. there is a oneness of Hashem, and there's no convergence of two opposing ideas or whatever. All there is a pure truth of Hashem. That's what faith is about. That's what the Baal Shem Tov emphasized. The Baal Shem Tov turned to a Jew and said to the Jew, you know who you are, you know what's inside of you. And he tried to bring out of the Jew and to reveal in the Jew the purity of faith in the neshama, the purity of the faith that comes from the deepest parts of our neshama. To let go of all the different thinking and feeling on the exterior and the consciousness of the Jew, and to touch and to reveal and unearth the innermost part of the neshama that just believes. There's nothing else. All there is Hashem. What was unique about the teachings of Alter Rebbe is the Alter Rebbe brought these truths of faith to the realm of the intelligence, which is really, if you think about it, it seems it's a convergence of two diametrically opposed things. Naturally, a human mind has many different paradigms. And within each person, between each person and another, everyone has different perspectives. And even in each individual concept you're trying to learn, there is a thought process of back and forth, of questions and answers, until you're able to get to a conclusion. So that there's a lot of division within intelligence, within the ability to process an idea. There are many components. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of contradiction. But despite the fact that intelligence, that logic, has so many different components, yet the Alter Rebbe brought into logic, into seichel, into the realm of the intellect, the truths of the inner dimension of Torah. He brought the truths from which are in a realm that don't have questions. There are no arguments, that come from the place of the truth. And in the place of the truth, there are no questions. There are no arguments. And he brings this to us. He brings it down to the realm of the intelligence, so that our intelligence itself is able to accept these truths without the arguments, without the division. So through the teachings of Chassidus Chabad, you bring peace in the place of division. You bring these truths of the Baal Shem Tov, and not just you're asking the Jew to leave your mind behind and to ignore your feelings and thoughts, but the Alter Rebbe's purpose in revealing Chassidus Chabad is to bring the truths of the Baal Shem Tov in a way that's integrated in our logic, in our minds, in a way that we could actually experience and connect with in a down-to-earth way, from our own worldview should be the truth of Hashem. It shouldn't be that the truth of Hashem is something that we have to let go of ourselves to reach. It should be that our own perspective is the same way. There's a famous story of Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov was once traveling from village to village, as Baal Shem Tov would always do, in order to inspire people to praise Hashem. Baal Shem Tov would specifically ask people, how are you? How's your health? In order that people would praise Hashem. Baal Shem Tov once came to a certain village where there was a synagogue that hermits prayed in. And there was one hermit, one Parush, who was praying and studying there for over 50 years. And Baal Shem Tov would dress like a simple villager. And he walked over to this hermit, this Parush, and he says to him, hey, how's your health? How's your livelihood? How's your parnasa? And the guy doesn't even look at the Baal Shem Tov. Why should he address this simple heathen who's coming to him to talk to him? He is the great scholar. Baal Shem Tov, in emotions, Baal Shem Tov, like, there's the door. Baal Shem Tov says to him, why don't you give God his livelihood? What are you talking about? It says in the Tehillim, King David says that just like God gives us our livelihood, we, the Jewish people, support Hashem. How so? It says in the Torah, you, Holy One, you sit upon the praises of Israel. The praises of Israel cause Hashem, so to speak, to be supported. He sits upon them. And what that means is that when a Jew praises Hashem, the Baal Shem Tov taught, you bring revelation of Hashem into that specific arena that you praise Hashem for. If you say, thank you Hashem for my eyesight, thank you Hashem for my health, thank you Hashem for that causes a blessing in that specific thing that's irking you, but by praising Hashem for what's there, you open up a channel for Hashem's blessings. So Hashem sits upon, he godly blessing descends upon and rests on the praise of Israel. Now, there are many different ways of causing, so to speak, parnasa to Hashem. The emphasis of the word parnasa, livelihood, is that just like when you eat and you're sustained by the food, your soul is connected to your body, so too our praise causes a connection between God, who is, so to speak, the soul of the world, to the materiality, the physicality of the world, to causes, so to speak, Hashem to descend. Of course, Hashem is everywhere. What I mean is that it causes a revelation of Hashem in this world. Just like when you eat, it causes a revelation of your soul and your body. When you eat, you're not, before you eat, you could be in a bad mood and you're this and you can't think straight. You eat and your soul is more present in your body and more alive. So in a similar way, our praise of Hashem causes this. But Hashem is sustained, so to speak, by our Torah study as well. So why did the Baal Shem Tov interrupt the guy's Torah study in order for him to say, thank you, Hashem? What did Baal Shem Tov want to accomplish? And this guy was a guy who was religious, of course. He was studying Torah and praying day and night. So clearly was a guy who kept the rules. He always was keeping the rules. So why is Baal Shem Tov saying, give God his livelihood? And the answer is that the Baal Shem Tov wanted to accomplish that it shouldn't just be something that's part of the rules. It shouldn't just be that his appreciation for godliness should be something that's given from above, but it should be his own perspective. It should be the way he feels. When you are in a synagogue and you recite the morning prayers, you can go through all the morning prayers and not even think once. Just go through all of them and not even think once. There's only one part of prayer you have to think. Just don't have a choice. As Nissen Eminov will show us to say, one prayer that no one has a choice, they have to think, is today is the day that the Levites recited the song of the temple on day one. You have to remember what day of the week it is. But other than that, you can go skedaddle from Moda Ani to Ach Tzadikim, not thinking at all what you're saying. The Baal Shem Tov wanted to accomplish that his own perspective, the way he feels, should be thank Hashem. Not just he's doing the things Hashem says to do. It should be the way he feels. And not just he feels about his Torah study, but the way he feels about his physical reality in the world. Hashem wants to have a home in the lowest realm. And therefore Hashem's parnasa, his livelihood, so to speak, is not as much from the guy's Torah study or by reciting the official words of prayer, which is, of course, the bare minimum, but there's something greater accomplished in a way by the natural response of a person when he thinks about what's going on in his life and he says, naturally, Baruch Hashem. That's the difference between peace from above to below or peace from below to above. Peace from above to below is the truth of Hashem, and you're affected by it. The Baal Shem Tov taught you, but even the Baal Shem Tov, what I just said, the story of Baal Shem Tov was trying to make people cultivate this feeling by themselves. They should have this appreciation for Hashem. It wasn't in a logical way. It wasn't in a way that changed your lens, how you looked at the world. The Baal Shem Tov didn't give you the glasses to look at the world differently. Hasidim use this expression to explain the difference between the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. They say the Baal Shem Tov put up a ladder to serve Hashem. This is the ladder. The Alter Rebbe showed us how to climb that ladder. So in this exact analogy of the Baal Shem Tov inspiring this person that he himself should praise Hashem, this should be something that he himself looks at the world this way. Hashem said that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to say Baruch Hashem from your own perspective, how you feel. But the Alter Rebbe gave us the tools to actually feel that way. The Alter Rebbe, for example, in Shara Yuchad Ve'emunah, by teaching us the truths of Hashem and how we could learn with our own minds to realize how there's nothing besides Hashem and everything in the world has a godly energy in it. We can use our mind to integrate that truth in a way that makes sense to me. That's peace from below to above. That's how my animal soul, how my humanness, my persona appreciates and says Baruch Hashem. It's a different kind of Baruch Hashem. Rabbi Chadakav, the Rebbe's secretary, would brief yeshiva students before they would go on what was similar to the Peace Corps. Just like the Peace Corps sends out people to go to these third world countries to give medicine and food. So Lubavitch has also a similar Peace Corps. Yeshiva students go to very remote areas in the world to inspire them for a few weeks in the summertime. Rabbi Charakov would often tell the boys before leaving, make sure to thank your hosts. Often the boys wouldn't stay in hotels, they stay at people's houses. Make sure you give appreciation to your hosts. One boy didn't really get the message. One boy staying at someone's home and he says, Rabbi Charakov would like to thank you. There's appreciation, but then there's appreciation. The Baal Shem Tov said we should say thank you Hashem, but is that really you saying thank you Hashem? Or is you saying thank you Hashem because you learned the Baal Shem Tov said you're supposed to do this? Is it you on a good day because your soul, in your innermost part of your soul says thank you Hashem? Or is it the way you look at life itself? So that's what the Alter Rebbe wanted to accomplish, and we'll see the Mittler Rebbe brought something new to the table that even surpassed what the Alter Rebbe wanted to accomplish in this arena itself of peace from below to above. I'll just share one more analogy that Rebbe gives over here. In the laws of a Sanhedrin, the law of the Sanhedrin works in the following way. The Sanhedrin is a legal body of Torah law, court, and they have a discussion about the merits of a case, prosecution and defense. And after the entire discussion is over, they convene and they give a ruling. Now, when they give a ruling, it goes by the majority opinion. So how do we meant to look at this ruling? There's a discussion amongst the Achronim, amongst the codifiers of Jewish law and philosophers of Jewish law. What is the meaning of the final ruling of the Sanhedrin? Does it mean that the minority opinion is subsumed into the majority opinion and we ignore the minority opinion? And they have to give away from their opinion. They have to be flexible and say that we have to follow the majority opinion, though we just disagree. Or is the ruling a ruling that's coming from the entire Sanhedrin? Is this a ruling that actually stems from the entire body together? And that's the conclusion, that the Sanhedrin doesn't give a ruling from part of the Sanhedrin that everyone has to follow their opinion because they're the majority. Rather, the Sanhedrin is one entire body. And when they give a ruling, everyone is encompassed by that ruling. Everyone follows that ruling. Everyone, so to speak, doesn't just give lip service to their agreement to the ruling, but they are now part of this ruling. So in the first way of understanding how the Sanhedrin works, there's peace from above to below. The minority gives way to the majority. They have to acknowledge the majority. We have to follow the majority opinion, though we disagree. In the second way of explaining how Sanhedrin works, how the minority has to agree to the majority, because since the Torah says they have to agree to the majority, therefore this is our own ruling. This is one. Of course, in the Jewish court, there's a rule: you're not allowed to say secrets. You're not allowed to say what your opinion is. That's clear. But the question is, what is the ruling itself? Are you agreeing to the majority, or is this your own opinion? So that's the difference between peace from above to below or peace from below to above. Peace from above to below means that it's something that Hashem is giving you, and Hashem is causing there to be acknowledgement of His truth because you have a soul, because you have a neshama, you have faith. And peace from below to above means that it's your own understanding, your own feeling. You actually look differently at the world, which is such an important thing, because if you look at the world a certain way, then even when you're not in your most jovial soul self, even when you're on you have a different perspective. You look at life differently. That's how you look at the world. So the Mittler Rebbe's addition to the Alter Rebbe Mitzvah Shem, we'll get to on Sunday how that changed. The Momatel Amayla, how he, so to speak, added to this realm of peace from below to above through including Bina. We'll learn about that more in Shem on Sunday, but so far what we learned today is distinction between the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, and how the Baal Shem Tov achieved peace from above to below, and the Alter Rebbe caused it to be peace from below to above, how our own persona should be able to have an appreciation to the truths, to the faith of our own neshama. Any questions or comments or criticism? Okay. Have a great Shabbos 770. Great Shabbos Mordechai. Great Shabbos David. Great Shabbos Menachem Mendel.